Hello, everyone. I thought I would rank all of the books that I've written so far. Now, of course, not all of these books are novel length, but they're all what I would call longer narratives, longer than short stories that I've written over the last few years. And I'd like to go over all of them and say which ones I like least, which ones I like best. Um, Now, normally, what I like best is whatever my latest work is, but that's not always the case. There are some exceptions. So, I will start with the book, the Rains of Godwin Valley, which I wrote in 2017. I think it was published in 2018 after I attempted to get it traditionally published. This is the last book narrative that I tried to get traditionally published. Now, I will say though that the Rains of Godwin Valley does have quite a lot of merit to it. It's a western story, although originally it started out as as a story set in the Great Depression, and I only later revised it to be a western. And because originally I had a kind of a Grapes of Wrath kind of feel, but I changed it to be a western because I thought it fit the plot better. And but no, I would say that again. This is again a fairly solid book, but there are some things that I would do to change it. I think that there's some of the characters are a bit thinly drawn, and obviously stylistic wise, I've grown exponentially as a writer. Although this is still more sophisticated than a lot of the short stories that I wrote prior. I would rank. But I think that if you want to get a sense of where of where my writing style started to originate in its current form, then this is a good place to start. Now, of course, no, this is the only book that isn't available in the link that I have because it's under the name Joseph Loxton, not Joseph Vance Loxton. So this one's, I think one of the reasons why this one hasn't sold as much is because it's not available with the others. You have to search Joseph Loxton instead of Joseph Vance Loxton. Okay, now I have Symphony of Perdition, which again, Symphony of Perdition is a solid book, but it and I think it has a lot. Again, Symphony of Perdition is about a man who he's trying to cure his wife from depression, and her father is a psychiatrist, but then they there's a relationship between her and her father that isn't quite kosher, and there's a lot of secrets surrounding it. Excuse me. And anyway, though, this is still though a fairly it's a very complex book, and it opens with the scene where the husband is staring at his wife's grave, and then he sees his wife's an image of his wife in the grave, and he's taken back in time. It's a really complex and intricate sequence. The reason I rank this though at number four out of the five narratives is because it just doesn't move me. The story, for some reason, just doesn't move me as much as some of the others. Style wise, I really have no problem with it. Again, some of the, I would say up until, I mean, some of the dialogue I'd say could maybe use some improvement, although I do enjoy some of the speeches towards the end. Um, and so, yeah, that Symphony of Perdition. Then, of course, you have Empty Sounds of the Wind, which is a shorter story, but I feel that there's a lot of power and strength in the story, which involves a man named Edmund coming back from World War II, and he's been scarred, and he's trying to reconnect with his father, who kind of is in the early stages of dementia and doesn't quite remember him. And then he discovers that his former fiance is living in the house, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and I just think that there's a lot of power in the story that even though the book is very short, and it kind of combines a gothic aesthetic with a 40s noirish kind of aesthetic, and that's why I've really like Empty Sounds of the Wind. And now I will rank Mournful Wanderer, which is really my homage to the the Gothic genre, the Gothic horror genre, which is about a mother, a Southern belle, mourning the loss of her dead son, but then she thinks that the ghost of her dead son might be haunting her, but then at the same time she thinks that her doctor might be trying to fool her or manipulate her. And it's for that reason that I find this book to be very compelling because it also has a very intricate style. I think that my writing style really is really flourishes in this, and there's a lot of intricate atmosphere, a very a sense of foreboding, a melancholy foreboding that I think Mournful Wanderer really captures well. I was inspired by books like The House of Seven Gables and The Scarlet Letter and of course The Fall of the House of Usher, the short story. And if you like any of those books, you should definitely check this one out. Okay, and probably my favorite book so far is, surprise, surprise, is Silent Reckoning, which in many ways I was inspired by The Great Gatsby while writing this, but there's I, I I was influenced though by multiple genres because even though this is set in the 1920s, it has a kind of an epic Dickensian sense to it. Some of the characters are quite Dickensian in tone, and of course, it's about an actress who is trying to revitalize her career, and she's manipulated by this man named Walter Peterson, who's kind of an obsessive fan, into trying to frame this rival actress, and of course, everything ends up going south. It's kind of in some ways an American tragedy kind of story. There's elements of Greek tragedy, and I just think that in many ways, Silent Reckoning is probably the least flawed of all the books that I've written because I think it's just done so well. And I think it may even turn out to be even less flawed than the book that I'm currently writing because the book that I'm currently writing is more of a is so grand in scale that there's going to be more mistakes just because of how long it is versus Silent Reckoning, which is I think is very compact in its storytelling, and for that reason I think it works really well. It also has some of I think some of my best poetic language that I've ever written, and for that reason I would rank Silent Reckoning as number one. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of all of my books.